Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. I'm a concierge high-performance psychologist. With me today, I have Dr. Cole Galloway. He is a recovering academic working in social justice and disability, primarily with babies, as the founder of Go Baby Go. I have Paula Jenkins. She is the owner and CEO at LFS Consulting, where she does leadership development and financial literacy. And I have Frank Galindo. He has 20 years experience working in PR, where he enjoys bringing people together and creating partnership relationships. The question today: how do you respond when someone jokes in an inappropriate way? Frank, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Dr. Robyn. Interesting conversation. Obviously something that's been a topic of discussion, and probably even more so, I think, of the last 10, 15 years. A couple of questions that I do have before I kind of jump into how to potentially handle it. If you shut that down, are you drawing attention to it? And is that good or bad? If you do not acknowledge it, is that giving someone a free pass? I've been in that situation before. So I would submit that what you could do is, and I've done this in the past, is with like matter-of-fact statements surrounding whatever the inappropriate comment seems to be. The delivery could depend on the tone of the conversation. If the person is being an outright jerk and the statement is egregious, to me, it would be appropriate to respond in a more serious tone, to let them know that's not funny, that's not cool, don't do that again. The other side of it is, and I've seen this happen with the offender seemingly oblivious to the inappropriateness of the comment, and it's a little more lighthearted, I still respond, the content of the response would be the same, the delivery could be different, or it's just more like, hey, seriously, haven't you heard of, I don't know, women's rights or whatever the topic happens to be at the moment, and kind of go in that direction. But for me, it's really, you stand up for what you believe in, and if that's something that just does not sit well with you, and you know it doesn't sit well with the people around you, then something should be said. And how you say it depends on the individual, right, and the situation, I think.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, my response depends on my mood. If I'm in a teaching mood, honestly, I'm gonna check you and I'm gonna say it's not funny. And I'm gonna tell you why it's not funny. I'm gonna explain and shut it down. And there's other moments I'm just not in a teaching mood. I think as a Black woman, I get some of that inappropriateness from different sides. And so there are moments when I just realize, honestly, I don't want to teach in this moment. I'm just not going to laugh and just like, not funny. In other moments, I will take it much further and explain why it's not funny. So I think it just depends. And I hate to say that, but it really does depend on my mood. I think you get tired in some cases of this idea that, oh, it's just a joke. It's actually not just a joke. And I think having a child, I take it even more seriously because the jokes aren't funny. And I think we've all grown up with some way of identifying in one way or the other what we think is funny and what's you're being too serious. The reality is, no, I'm actually not. And words sting, they carry. And so you may go on with that joke and think it's not a big deal, but I'm going to carry that with me far longer. So honestly, it depends on my mood at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I've been told a lot in my life, oh, you're just too thin-skinned. And as an adult, I started saying it is not my responsibility to have thick enough skin that you can cut me and laugh while I bleed, and I have to be okay with that. And I find that shuts it down pretty quickly.
Yep.
Cole, what has been your experience?
Well, as white, male, hetero, cisgendered, privileged person, I'm usually the type of category of person making them jokes that everybody's talking about on this. So from Frank and Paul's comments to Robyn, if the jokes are going to be inappropriate, chances are someone looking like me was at the beginning of that joke. For all the folks that look like me, and the folks that might say, like Robyn said, oh, can't you take a joke? Or when people say, oh, Frank, you misperceived it. Oh, or take it that Paula didn't make a comment, so she's fine with that. We've heard all of those, and my folks say all of those things. So here's, just talking to the white guys out there, there's a theatrical term, and half my life is in comedy and improv and theater. So I love this question because comedy can change people's points of view. It can make people laugh. It can also, as we've heard, it can show that you are a jerk, an ignorant person, and lots of times you don't care. You just said it because you have the power in the room. So for white folks out there, folks that have been at the end of like, oh my gosh, why can I not say anything? There's a theatrical term called punching up, which means take your position of power and punch up. If you're going to say something that could be misinterpreted in a joking way, just ask, am I punching up? Meaning, am I punching from my position up in power? And for white, especially white cisgender hetero guys, you have a tight ceiling. There's nothing to punch up on. So most of the time, don't say it. The trouble, speaking again for just a white community, and I usually don't do this on Quick Hits, but I'll just be a representative for us, is I hear a lot, well, then I'm just not going to say anything, or I'm going to go to allyship training and check off the new words that they want me to say, and that's all I need to do. I can't say anything anymore. No, you can say whatever you would like, but not, as Paula said, not in every context. Find a context where you can be authentic and go, I just don't understand why we can't use this term anymore. But that's not the sales meeting. That's not a Black-owned business leader in front of a group. Like, read the room. And remember, punching up. And if you're a white guy and you go, well, I really can't say any of the things I used to, that's a place to start. You probably are right. Build on that.
Right. It's probably not appropriate, probably never was appropriate, and you're finally just figuring it out.
I will say, which one other thing with disability, something I hang out with a lot, but I'm temporarily able-bodied, is on the flip side, treat all of us like people. Folks with disabilities aren't warriors and angels and princesses.
The other thing, and I know, Paula, I'm sure you've experienced this too, is sometimes it's not safe to say something. I've had situations where I've said something and it has gone horribly wrong, and I've been attacked verbally or even physically for basically calling someone out. So you have to read the room that way too. If you're going to say something to somebody, is it safe?
Absolutely. And I think that's an important piece. And I'll tell you, so when I say, if I'm in the mood, that's exactly what I mean. So am I in the mood, honestly, personally, but is the environment, being very aware of your surroundings and what you say, it can impact what the next steps are. And let's be clear, I love a good joke any day. I love to laugh any day, but I also recognize, and it's kind of what Nicole was just saying, is here's the thing. Sometimes it just isn't appropriate, period. And I think we've gone for so long having the ability to say whatever we want and no one calling you out. And now we are in an environment where especially our young people will call you out in a heartbeat. And as I've gotten older, I don't have the tolerance to not call you out. So I always want to say that, being clear, I love to laugh like everybody else when it's funny.
I think there's a generational aspect to it. Some of the things that we're used to thinking, saying, believing from just being grown up in a different time, a different era. And then now, like with my friends that got together, we're the same age, grew up at the same time. And we think back, we're like, oh my God, we used to say those things. Like now it's like, oh, like you cringe thinking about what you thought was okay, because that's what you were surrounded by. And you would never say it today, not because you want to be politically correct, but you realize, oh my God, that's horrible.
And it's mean.
It's mean, yeah.
And again, I'll just say real quick, for people that feel like they have power in a room, authentically, like earned, or just by the fact you look like somebody like me, or your position in the company, what can I do to help people to create that safe space? Is during the meeting, if you can't say something, after the meeting, going up the chain where likely you are there and go, listen, I did not say anything, and you may not have perceived it, but those two other people, and usually that's where you have to close the door and just unleash about, you don't know the history. Usually it's about, you don't know what you're talking about, or that person there. Jack needs to be muzzled. You need to go to him and talk to him directly, because what he was saying, oh, well, he doesn't mean it. Not my point. And so, as Robyn said, maybe the people in the room are fearful for jobs and for promotions and stuff. But if you feel like you have power, you can wield that. Maybe you can't say anything anymore, but you can act. You can ask and so there's a lot to be done. If also, by the way, if you're friends with Robyn and Frank and Paula in that room, that helps too. So how about a little bit more friendship and authenticity in the workplace, and it'll decrease that chances of the culture allowing that.
Another good method is to say to someone, I don't understand. Why is that funny? Can you explain it to me? And the thing about that is you're calling them out, and it can feel that way and they can get really defensive, but they can't say that you were mean to them. You just ask them to explain. I don't understand. I think it's a really complicated subject. I think it's super hard to stand up and say, hey, that's not funny and that's not cool. Thank you for sharing your experiences with me. I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.